Welcome to the March 6, 2024 regular meeting of the Holland City Council. I'm Mayor Nathan Box, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Byrd.
Present.
Freeman.
Here.
Raymond. Here. Corbin. Soul.
Here.
Rowan.
Here.
Shea.
Here.
Schultheis.
Present.
And Mayor Box.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful, thank you. We're going to begin this evening's meeting the way we have for many years. First with an opening prayer, this evening by Council Member Shea, followed immediately by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we would invite you to join us if you're so inclined.
Almighty Creator, send down upon those who hold office in this city the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice, with the steadfast purpose they might faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Shea. Next item are our consent agenda items. These are items that are considered to be fairly routine. They've been reviewed by council as part of our council packet, and they will be enacted in one motion unless a member of the public asks to have an item removed from the consent agenda or a member of council asks to have an item removed from the consent agenda, and then it will be placed in its regular order on the regular agenda. But before I ask that, Brenda, would you please review the consent agenda for us?
4A, excuse the absence of Council Member Corbin. 4B, approve minutes from February 21 regular meeting, February 21 study session, and February 28 study session. 4C, from the Board of Public Works, the Whitetail LLC solar power purchase authorization. 4D, from Board of Public Works, Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia prepay gas transaction. 4E, City Clerk, claims filed against the city. 4F, from the City Clerk, a new business license for AADA junk removal. 4G, from Transportation Services, approve the budget for preliminary engineering on the Columbia Avenue reconstruction project. 4H, Transportation Services, award bid 2024 skip milling and paving project. 4I, Transportation Services, adopt resolution to support application for fiscal year 2027 bridge funds. 4J, Transportation Services, the 2024-2025 road salt purchase. 4K, from Community and Neighborhood Services, a tax abatement PA 198, set public hearing for March 20 for El Perigo Company from 700 Interchange Drive. 4L, from the Downtown Development, a lease agreement for 2 spaces in parking lot 7E. And 4M, from City Council, the proposed amendments to the rules of council.
Great. Thank you, Brenda. Is there any member of the public that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none. Any member of council that would like to have an item removed from consent and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none there either. What is the pleasure of council in regard to the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Moved by Soul. Is there support, Mr. Vreeman?
Yes.
Supported by Vreeman. Any discussion? Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Byrd.
Yes.
Vreeman.
Yes.
Raymond. Yes. Soul.
Yes.
Rowan.
Yes.
Shea.
Yes.
Schultheis.
Yes.
And Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Under the Open Meetings Act of the State of Michigan, we allow the opportunity for the public to address council and to our other boards, committees, and commissions during all of our meetings. This is one-way communication. It's an opportunity for you to speak to us about things that you believe are important. We don't engage in discussion at this time or answer direct questions at this time, but if there is a question that arises, and staff may be able to circle back at a later time to be able to answer that question for you. We do have some guidelines that we ask you to follow. One is that each person may speak only one time, and that you may speak for 5 minutes in total. You'll see there are 3 lights on the dais in front of me. There's a red light, a yellow light, and a green light. Green light means you're doing well on time. Yellow light means you have 1 minute left. And the red light means that your time has expired, and we are strict about that. Now, when you approach the podium, please state your name and the municipality in which you live. Having said that, is there anyone here who would like to address council at this time? If so, please come forward. And would you please state your name and municipality for the record?
Ann Henriksen, Zeeland. At the last study session, Council, you allowed the public comment to continue at 5 minutes. As servants of the people, it is critical to hear from the citizens, so thank you for doing that. Mayor Box has promised that he would in 2024 declare National April Faith Month. He makes such commitments without the council's approval because it is his initiative privilege to do so. First Liberty Institute, Plano, Texas, is helping Holland celebrate 2024 April Faith Month with a free luncheon at the Holland Civic Center, April 24th at noon. City Council and employees are invited. Mark your calendars and register. The public is invited also. For information, email Taylor Birchfield, tbirchfield@firstliberty.com. At this luncheon, lawyers, city council members, and church organizations will be informed of the 2023 changes in the interpretation of the 1971 Lemon Law and the separation of church and state ideology. The Supreme Court of the United States has ruled that Lemon versus Kurtzman is null and void. We can now demonstrate through all forms of expression our religious beliefs without reprisal. We are excited about this good news for our protection of religious expression. Attorney Vanderveen assured us in 2021 that the City of Holland DEI ordinance would sufficiently protect our religious freedoms to exercise our faith persuasions. With the new U.S. Supreme Court ruling, we will now respectfully express our faith freely in all public-owned spaces. This changes the past fear of the ordinance of its enforcement, that being sued, for example, because someone felt discriminated against over something that was said. The DEI ordinance states that this chapter will be interpreted liberally to achieve the purposes set for above. According to the ordinance, the accused would have been sent to Lansing to the Attorney General Nessel for litigation. The DEI anti-discrimination ordinance suggested by the Attorney General, voted on in 2020, specifically gave definitions of expression directives to only one class of people and not to any other classified. For instance, sexual orientation shall mean emotional, romantic, or sexual attractions or the absence thereof to people. Sexual orientation also refers to a person's sense of identity based on those attractions, related behaviors, and membership in the community of others who share those attractions. Gender expression shall be defined as a gender-based appearance, expression of, or behavior of an individual, regardless of the individual's assigned sex at birth. Gender identity shall be defined as an individual's internal sense of their own sex and defining component of sex. May I repeat, there is no definition offered in the DEI ordinance for religious or any other expression. The United States Supreme Court has now made legal precedential interpretation of free religious expressive speech. How will this change the present operations of the departments and entities of the City of Holland? The city clerks, employees, educational, library, museum, health employees cannot refuse access to public domains for any religious-related behavior, activity with the terminology religious practices are not permitted because of separation of church and state. Such statements are null and void. We're looking forward to the appropriate citywide changes. The changes in policies and ordinance are not an issue at this time. What needs to be changed is practices, permits, rules, and regulations throughout the city-owned properties. So come to the luncheon to be informed, April 24th at noon at the Civic Center. And you can email tbirchfield@firstliberty.com. And I want to say that anything I have said is my opinion and not related to the First Liberty Institute. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council at this time? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period. Next item on the agenda is item 9, written petitions and communications. In addition to providing people the opportunity to speak to us directly at council meetings, we do also have an email address where you will reach all members of council. That is publiccomment@cityofholland.com. Again, publiccomment@cityofholland.com. All council members receive those emails, review those emails, and if we have them in between our regular meetings, we accept them into the record at our regular meetings. We don't read them out loud, but they are accepted into the record. We don't have any this evening, but just wanted to make sure that the public was aware of that. Next item on the agenda, item 12E 1.1, traffic changes, parking restrictions, 16th Street, 17th Street, 24th Street, and Fair Hill Court. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. This happens every once in a while, so just as a reminder, we have a process that we always use where typically we've been approached by someone in the community, or maybe one of our departments has seen something that we think potentially merits a change in our traffic ordinances. We have a traffic committee of the city made up of staff that takes a look at those considerations. And when they do have recommendations for changes, we bring that first to you at this step. But then what we ask is that you postpone or table that motion, and then it's out there in the public. We specifically notify the neighbors in that exact area about what the proposed changes are, and invite them to make any comments or suggestions on that. And after that process is complete, then we bring it back to you and report if we've had any or what type of feedback that we've had, and then we make a recommendation that you've already seen, but we ask you to take action on that recommendation at that night. So while we could, I think all the information is in your packet, supported by pictures of exactly what we're looking to do in those 3 areas. So the recommendation for tonight is to postpone action on this until a later date.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? What is the pleasure of council in regard to this item?
Move to postpone the proposed traffic changes.
Moved by Raymond, is there support?
Support.
Support by Byrd, any discussion? Seeing none, Brenda, would you please call the roll?
Vreeman.
Yes.
Raymond.
Yes.
Sol.
Yes.
Rowan.
Yes.
Shay.
Yes.
Schultheis.
Yes.
Byrd.
Yes.
And Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. Next item on the agenda, 12E 6.1, approve a facility management agreement with Sports Facilities Management LLC for the management of the Holland Civic Center Place. Mr. Van Beek.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, and those in attendance and watching at home. This probably feels, Council, like, hey, we've been here, we've done this before, but we always think it's an important process. And to explain for those that may not know, this was an item on your study session. Was it just it was just last week, wasn't it? So we went through and talked about this in greater detail, and both staff made maybe a little bit longer presentation, and the visitors that I'm going to introduce here momentarily were here also. And what you have before you is a recommendation from staff to enter into an agreement with sports facilities companies. And you'll also meet who's proposed to be their subcontractor. I'd call him a partner in this deal, Creative Dining Services, for management operations at the Holland Civic Center Place. You have in front of you the vision statement. And I made the point, I think, last week in study session that this vision statement wasn't a recent vision statement. In fact, it was the vision statement created by council and the Civic Center Advisory Board and a lot of other people when taking a look at the opportunity of renovating and then completing the renovation and then entering into what I'll call the new life of the Civic Center after the renovation several years ago. An important part in that vision statement, I'm going to talk about this here in a moment in the next slide, and then I'll go fast, I promise, is that you all had several conversations at the end of last year and initiated a process. But the guiding principles, the North Star in all of this, as it should be if you really pay attention to your vision statement, is what's in front of you right now. And I thought it was interesting that at that point, several years ago, we talked about the next chapter in the life of the Holland Civic Center place. And the next chapter indicates, right, that it's not just a one chapter or a two chapter book. Usually it's a book that has multiple chapters. And I think right now we're making a recommendation of the next chapter in the Civic Center. And they've been good chapters up until now, and we think that this next chapter is going to be a really good chapter also. So just as a recap, you all have heard this, but for the listening public also, so that they understand the process and the decision that you've all made and directed staff to do up until this point, is we just talked about that you confirmed the vision statement, that you made an ordinance change, and I think it's a small but important change where previously the Civic Center Place Board was the holder of the contract, the agreement that you're about to consider tonight. And really that was an unusual thing, and quite frankly, possibly even within the charter, it was like, how did that happen? City Council is the holder of contracts, and staff, it's the city manager, but really the city manager is not me, it's staff is the holder and manager of contracts. So we made a minor change where this agreement would report to council, would be managed on a day-to-day basis by city manager, by city staff. That is not to be confused in any way, shape, or form, however, that the Civic Center Advisory Board continues to play a very important role, not only in providing some policy direction, some recommendations to council, but it's really a larger opportunity for the public and important partner organizations in the public that use the Civic Center to have a lot of input and make sure that it's the most vibrant, successful place possible. You also made direction end of last year to initiate a RFP, or request for proposal process. And staff went ahead and did that. And that involved putting an RFP document together. You will see in the proposed agreement that actually is an exhibit in the contract, which is good contractual process, where it refers back to what we were looking for. You'll see that we had 8 members on the interview panel that interviewed 3 applicant companies. And I think we had a nice cross-section of the organization and the community and the Civic Center Place Board on that. And after those 3 interviews, there was a unanimous direction from the panel to staff to proceed with what was laid out in the RFP, which wasn't just accept one of the proposals, but it was using that as the opportunity to then do specific negotiations towards a final agreement. And that direction was to do it with the companies that you have in front of you tonight, sports facilities companies and creative dining services. Again, then when staff, that was Matt Van Dyken and myself, and then by extension, City Attorney Duckworth, we really talked about a lot of things in those meetings, but there were 4 primary things that we talked about. Again, we returned to the vision statement and the richness and the multiple things that we're really looking for in our Holland Civic Center Place. We really focused on the importance of partnerships, both with the city, multiple organizations, the farmers market, the DDA, the PSD, And then certainly with our own recreation department and an opportunity to get more recreation programming in the Civic Center, particularly in the next handful of years before we're able to finalize our plans and build a recreation center. But that we also were looking to find the balance of that value to community with the community partners in rec programming. But that also we felt, and in the interviews, I think one of the important reasons why the panel said pursue conversations with this partnership is because they really talked about the opportunities in the financial model of the venue. We also talked about kind of in the, because there's finances involved, there's, we're paying them to operate this facility. We really challenged them to take a look at sharing in the risk of success, where it wasn't just a flat amount that we would pay to the contractor. There is a basis of that, right? But that also we were looking for improvement on that financial model, and that there'd be value coming back to the city, but there'd also be value in the partners in that. And we challenged them with that, and they'll talk more about how they met that challenge, we believe. So process check, yes, we did have that conversation with you at study session. We know that you can't take any votes, but I saw some head nodding and some comfort level from all of you to proceed. You did very clearly, and this was wise, we had a meeting with the Civic Center Advisory Board actually the next morning, last Thursday morning, and we met with that group, and probably not a surprise, there was unanimous support and actually motion by the Civic Center Place Board to be very clear in their response to you to go ahead and move forward with finalizing an agreement with this partnership before you tonight. We did then finalize that agreement. The we is the royal we, because while there was a lot of work on that, a lot of thanks to City Attorney Duckworth and also the attorney for SFC in getting that detail done. So that was inserted in your packet and was in your packet last Friday afternoon. And then again, as I said, the formal agreement is recommended for you tonight to go ahead and execute that agreement as laid forth. Financial information, we spent more time in this. Really what I want to highlight here is, like I said before, that the numbers are based upon a pro forma, or basically, no matter how you do it, it's based upon how well the company and we think they'll actually do in delivering events, and then there's some payback both to the company but also to the city when we're successful. So what's laid before you is based upon those projections, but what you can see is there is a base level of fees, but there's also incentives, and you can see some of that incentives in this layout. But also there are, in addition, there's base city operating costs that we have built into our local city budget also. So you can see kind of the differential of what we're hoping to achieve with this, both kind of historically more so, but then also with the recommendation tonight. And with that, I would like to introduce the two companies and their representatives. And I'm just going to ask them to come forward, and I'll let you all introduce yourselves. So thanks for coming again on a Wednesday to the City of Holland.
Good evening and welcome. And yes, please, as you each come up, please introduce yourself, the company that you represent, and for the record, the municipality that you live in.
Absolutely. My name is Eric McCafferty, Regional Vice President with Sports Facilities Companies. I actually live in Westfield, Indiana. First off, just want to say thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, for the opportunity this evening to discuss this a little bit further, and we could not be more excited to get going and establishing the partnership on behalf of your city.
Eric Sullivan, founder with Sports Facilities Companies. I reside in Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, but am a former Michigander and Holland resident.
I'm Susan Golder. I'm with Creative Dining Services, and I live in Ada, Michigan.
I'm Janine Oberstadt with Creative Dining Services, and I live in Holland, Michigan.
My name is Jim Eichhoff. I'm President and CEO of Creative Dining and live in Holland, Michigan.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. So tonight we'd like to, quick agenda, some items. We'll do intros, company overviews, and then kind of get into the optimization of the venue itself. It'll be a little bit more high level. Some of you guys have heard this before, but want to go through and make sure everybody's comfortable. Sports facilities companies. We are entering in our 21st year of operations, and our mission is very simple, and it's what drives us to get up and do what we do every day. It's to improve the health and economic vitality of the communities that we serve. I think it's what makes us so excited about potentially being here with the Holland Civic Center and within this community. So much potential for the venue, an amazing spot. Just really excited to be a part of it. Some quick high-level numbers. Currently operating just around 50 venues around the country. I think the number here that sticks out to me most is the 25 million visits. Those are the visits that we get to impact lives when they come through our venues, and whether it be through sport, recreation, community programs, you name it. We're going to put a great experience and have something for everybody. Just makes us really excited. Kind of a high-level snapshot there of where we're at, the venues that we currently operate.
Yeah, and just on the creative dining side, the food and beverage side, many of you might know us from Calvin University and then Hope College Hayworth Hotel. But what some people don't know, that we're national, and we actually have had a lot of national accolades. Here are just a few that we've received from national publications like Flavor in the Menu magazine. Food Management magazine said, hey, creative dining is one of the top 8 companies on the move. So great news is that we're local, we're national, so we have all the resources to bring to bear.
And as we like to say, when we enter in partnerships, you're going to be in some great company. We just thought we'd share a few of the brands that we represent on a national level. We do have close to 2,000 employees across 17 states, close to 85 clients. We're really excited about, but locally here, our benchmark is, we do, we didn't put their logo up here, I don't believe. I saw that or not, but we've done some strong work with Royal Park Place. So we're in the retirement home business, and as locally here is Hope. We also do MacDowell Bay Yacht Club. We do Camp Geneva, believe it or not. So we have a very eclectic client base, but really it's all about quality. And our challenge is to bring that expertise to really drive and recapture confidence in the greater Holland community to really want to do business and be delighted with the food and dining experience as part of our partnership. We're so excited.
In my role, I get to work with our procurement department in establishing all these local partnerships with all these wonderful agricultural growers that we have here in Holland and along the lakeshore, and partnering with our local artisanal producers and businesses. And we bring all those relationships, we will be bringing all of those relationships with us to the Civic Center Place, knowing that diners, this is important to them, and it's really important to this community to be supporting businesses, supporting other businesses. And so one of the best parts of my job is getting to taste and interact with all of these folks.
I'm going to talk a little bit about operations, how we're structured, and how we really look at this as a partnership. And what I'll start with is we are purpose-built to help you achieve your goals. And that's really how we look at SFC every day, but specifically with this partnership with CDS. When we read the RFP and when we really understood the importance of this facility in the community and the importance of the food and beverage offering, we thought it really important that we partner with someone local and someone that can really help achieve the best for this venue. So the way that we do this in full communication with you all is we start with the vision. I think Keith and Matt have done a great job of continually bringing us back to focus on what the vision is for HCCP. And so what we'll do is every year we'll start with a goals and visioning session from which we'll build the operational calendar. Now that will be the framework for the calendar. Of course, things will come up and fill in as we go, but it will also include an operating budget. And what's important about that is it's full transparency. It allows us to have the conversations up front with all of the important stakeholders, certainly with all of you and with staff, also with the recreation department, with the chamber, with other local groups and organizations, so that we can make sure that we achieve their goals and ultimately have success for the venue. As we look at the overall focus right now, what we really understand is it's all about the guest. It's all about a great guest experience. It's about bringing people to it as a destination. It's a really important anchor destination in downtown district, and the way that this can play a really vibrant role in the overall community and be a hub for the community is something we think is really, really important. And so one of the things that we just want to make sure we proactively address, because it is important to what we do, is that sports is in our name, but it's certainly not all that we do. We really look at this as a hub of the community. And so as we look at that vision statement, it's certainly not just about sports. It's about community gatherings, it's about civic gatherings, it's about the festivals that already have just an incredible reputation here, like Tulip Time and others. And so that's something that we're really, really excited to build upon, grow upon, and work with those different community partners. And then ultimately, as we think about this, it's not just about HCCP. That's certainly what we will be managing day to day. We'll make sure that it's kept in tip-top shape. We'll make sure that the food and beverage offerings are phenomenal, the programming's phenomenal, but then we will also certainly be working on the overall destination of Holland and how we can be a great partner to promote the overall community.
So we're a food company. Food is what we do. And our event food is especially well known because it's very beautiful and it's also delicious. And so part of any celebratory events, but also civic events, meeting food is important, whether it's on a buffet or in a box lunch. It still has to be, people eat with their eyes first, so it's very, very attractive. And we're very excited. This is an extension of what we do every day, but to do it here in our own backyard is pretty exciting for us. The food is not the only part of the hospitality experience, though. The ease of booking, planning an event, whether that event is small or large, or it doesn't matter about budget. Everyone deserves that real friendly welcome, and our staff is known for walking people through the event planning process and logistics and making everything just very, very easy, including once they show up, through the entire event, making sure that people are really happy and taken care of. Concessions are a part of what goes on at the Civic Center as well. And so we've got some ideas and some exciting plans about that. Not to take away any fan favorites. Everybody wants their Doritos or their beer, their popcorn. But there's some opportunity there for other types of food stuffs too. And in today's sporting world, when you go to different arena events, it's not just hot dogs anymore. And we think that there's all kinds of opportunity for even potential additional revenue streams there, but also just appealing to a diverse crowd, regardless of why they're there that day.
So this is an overview, really a framework of how we set up the operation on the ground, and don't take every one of those as specifically a position, but what it really is, it's an accountability matrix of the different roles that we'll want to make sure that we have covered here on the ground. So that will be the staff that's here day to day. What you see in the blue box on the left, that's the corporate support infrastructure that comes with SFC to help make sure that the team on the ground has everything that they need and the national reach of our partnerships and the depth of our team. When we think about driving revenue, we talked about this a lot actually in the workshop and in conversations leading up to this, is that it really is about diversity of programming. And so when we think about everything from different types of rental events to programs that we can run to programs that we can partner on with the recreation department and other local user groups, really, really important. And then what we'll also do is look at how can we engage with other different types of local organizations, whether it's family entertainment, whether it's working with local and downtown retailers, the hoteliers, to make sure that, again, we're promoting the overall destination of Holland when we have great events taking place at HCCP. And then we really track that data. Very much one of the things that we've had good conversation around is how we make sure that we're achieving the goals that we set out to. And so as we look at things like tracking mobile device data and length of stay and where people are coming from, where they're going to within the community. What it really allows us to do is just be smarter in how we work with those different groups, how we maximize the different types of offerings that we have in the calendar, and then get the very best results from HCCP for you all. And at the end of the day, we want to get more people there, right, on a regular basis. So there are some great cornerstone programs like Farmers Market that certainly we're not going to interrupt. We're only going to look to add to and help to bolster the overall experience. But then working with all the different school groups, adult groups, youth groups, you name it, we'll want to make sure that we can really accommodate all different pursuits. Now, this is an overview pro forma. I don't know if you can read it on the screen, so I'll just give you the high level. Essentially what we did is we looked at the current trajectory and the current budget, and to Keith's point earlier, based on what we know to be true of existing programs and then opportunities that we see, we put a high-level revenue and expense projection together so that we can have a baseline for our conversations, and then as we build out that programming calendar, as we talk about the operating budget, the goal will certainly be to outperform it with the direction and the vision that's core to HCCP. So, part of the reason that budget's important is, as Keith shared, in the negotiation and the back and forth, part of the ask was, hey, we want to certainly invest in this facility, invest in the community, invest in the operation, but we want to make sure that we're doing this in a financially responsible and prudent way. And so what we had originally proposed is in the blue column on the left, and you'll see it's with a base fee of $19 a month, and then it has different types of deferred management related to sponsorship sales, food and beverage revenue, and then NOI improvement. So not just NOI period, but only improvement off of what we're doing and we're building upon. What we shifted to, based on the conversation, the ask, and the negotiation, was lowered that upfront investment on the base level, but put more incentive and shared risk on the back end. So what you can see is the proposal from 19 down to 14,000 per month for years 1 and 2, and a 30% share of NOI improvements versus the 25. And then once we shift to the 19, that will resort back to the original proposed fee structure. So it was a way that we thought we could partner up front, because that really is at the root of this relationship being successful. It's being a true partnership. So I want to leave you just with, as we think about this holistically and as we talk about the impact we want to make, is partnership is not just a word that we put in the proposal. It's how we approach this every day. So from the collaboration to the 100% transparency to really looking at how we're achieving results. And as we say, the scoreboard matters. Being really open and honest with you and talk about what's working and what can we do more of in the community. And if there are challenges, if there are things that we can grow upon or do better on, we want to hear that too, so that we can represent Holland and make this facility something that you're really proud of and brings the entire community together. Keith, do we open up for questions or discussion, or where do we go?
The mayor will facilitate that now.
Absolutely. I just
Good
wanted to
job,
make sure
Eric.
you had the opportunity to say everything that you wanted to. Council, questions for sports facilities management or staff in regard to this? Mr. Shea.
Yeah, I'm just curious, and this could be for both of you, maybe more for sports facilities, but I know that you work with other municipalities. Are they similarly kind of have hybrid goals as we do, you know, with kind of balancing the bottom line and also, you know, being a community center?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's absolutely a very common discussion. And what it is there's a whole lot of great outcomes that these types of facilities can generate, right? And it can be community inclusion and placemaking and sense of community. It can be driving a really healthy bottom line. It can be bringing people from outside the community to the community to make economic impact. And there's no wrong answers. And that's why the vision statement is a true north, and that's why the open communication, the vision and goal discussions are really important, is so that as we think about those different programs and events and the outcomes that we want to achieve, we balance those. And that's a conversation we have ongoing in every community that we serve.
Sure. Thanks. And then for staff, maybe, what's kind of the tool in place for us to be, you know, checking in and making sure that our compasses are both pointing north?
Yeah, so I would say there's a couple things. First, there's a assuming of a positive vote tonight, right? There's immediately, we talked a little bit more about that at the study session, but it's good for everyone to hear this, right? There's a transition. So there's discussion where even though we have a professional company that will continue to be professional, I'm sure, and deliver us through the end of June, this contract would take in effect July 1. But one of their fees and one of their commitments that we asked them about, and they reiterated often, is that they're going to get to work now, right? To make sure that they're not only prepared for July 1, but that also, like, you know, there's going to be a lot of work to get there. So that vision that they talked about and really exchanging and kind of that multi-step process that they have, I think is going to be key. I think we know already a little bit what some of those conversations are going to be, but also it's not just staff conversations, it's civic center conversations, it's some of those key partners and organizations that have events there. So I think there's going to be ample opportunity to download, if you would, multiple perspectives on what our goals are. So I think you have to start there.
Right.
Then beyond that, there's the ongoing, and the ordinance change, I think, is a change where day to day, right, not only does myself and Matt, predominantly manage this part of our operation, but they're also integrated in an office at the Civic Center that has other city staff in there every day also. So I think we'll have a sense, we'll be able to answer those questions on a real-time basis, which is important. Then you add in the layer of the Civic Center Advisory Board, right? Which is still critically important, but you can't ask a voluntary board to be there every day, right? So I think we've strengthened that model a little bit. And then ultimately, we've had some conversations, we've seen some examples, but we've also talked about providing data so that when you come up with that strategic plan, there's different data models and scorecards that they've talked about that said, okay, we agreed to this. Now let's make sure that we're, always saying, okay, how are we doing? How much stuff do we have, on the events calendar? Is this a and I hate doing this, but is this a revenue event? Right. Is this a community event? And they're all equally important, right? But that's where we can start testing out and making course corrections in big ways and small ways.
Great, thanks. Yeah. Other questions? Go ahead, Kim, Ms. Brown.
I know I asked this last week, but just for a point of clarification for anybody that might be observing this meeting online, can you just give a little overview of how the staffing piece of it is going to work?
Yeah, so with the staffing, we'll have a full-time staff that's there on the ground and running the day-to-day operations, and then we'll have a series of part-time staff that are there on an event or on a program basis. And so with that staff, one of the things that we're really excited about the partnership with CDS on, and I'm sure Jim will address here, is the ability to kind of flex up and be efficient with that staff so that we can serve with a really great quality when we're having those larger events, and at the same time we don't have to cover that overhead and carry that overhead when those events aren't taking place. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add.
We'll have 3 key food and beverage people on staff full-time designated there every day. And so, and then that flex team to flex up, we have over 600 employees in this, within a 50-mile-an-hour radius. So when we, put up the flag that large event need, staffing, we have mechanisms to communicate this out, and we have a lot of staffing to pull from. To be able to flex up. So whether it's an event for 35 or 350 or north of 1,000, we know how to do this. But 3 dedicated staff that will be part of the operations team for the Civic Center, and then our offices are 3 miles down the road. So.
Yep. Oh, go ahead.
And then another overview point that I thought was very important to learn a little bit more about. You mentioned last week that there was like an internal ticketing system, and that was specifically meant to keep pricing in check. It'd be nice. I thought it was one of the cooler points. So if you don't mind giving a little overview of that as well, please.
Absolutely. So with SFC, one of the things that we recognized operating all different size venues is that the ticketing solutions and platforms that were out there weren't meeting all of our needs, and there was a lot of let's just say margin and money leaving the venue and leaving the community. And so what we did is we created an in-house ticketing platform, and what we can do is we can run those ticketed programs through our own network, and all of the revenue stays here in Holland with the facility rather than leaving with a third-party vendor.
Ms. Raymond?
So is this, for SFC, is this a model that you use across the country? You find a food provider and then partner with them locally? Is that generally what you do?
No, it's actually unique for this opportunity. We, in several of our venues, we actually run F&B in-house, and whether it's catering or concessions. Because of the unique opportunity, though, and the capability with these larger events, we thought this partnership made a lot of sense, and especially when you think about we really, really love the connection with the different vendors that you source locally here. We source locally here, I can say now. And so that's just a huge point for us for this partnership. And I'll say that from our first conversation when we talked about just organizational mission alignment and culture alignment and the strategic fit, it was a no-brainer. And while this is the first project that we're going to be partnered on, I don't think it's going to be the last.
Mr. Freeman?
Just some overall context. I've been sitting on the Civic Center board now since its inception, and watching all of these different things taking place, and particularly as this process has taken place over the last few months, I just really appreciate and affirm your partnership and the way that you've gone about that and how you've communicated that out. And so thanks for doing that. The partners, our city partners, in our community that utilize that space, and I sit on many of them with the Chamber, Tulip Time, and with the Visitors Bureau in particular. I'm really, really excited for creative dining in particular, that there's already community presence and knowledge of many of those partners, and then how that's going to work together. And so I'm just looking forward with great anticipation of what that's going to look like. And I appreciate the local partnership piece and all of that, which you talked about every time we've been with you. Now, I've been with you, feels like a bazillion times. You're my neighbor. And just, so thanks. And I just look forward to our outcome tonight and what the future will hold. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Schulteis?
Yeah, thanks again. Great presentation, great information. Do you mind discussing some of the transition opportunities? I love reading no fees until July 1st, so that's great. Oh, but I know that there's a lot of bookings already in place. What should people expect and the community expect over the next couple of months?
Yeah, so this is one thing I think that if I'm sitting in your shoes, I'd want to know is this is not the first time we've done this. We've done this several times, transition. In fact, we've done this over 30 times with different types of venues. And the first thing that we'll want to do is just really get our arms wrapped around everything of what is. That includes everything from working with those different community organizations, working with the event calendar, working with the different vendors and suppliers, working with the different staff to understand just the current day-to-day operating reality. And then the work that we're going to do between now and July 1 is make sure that we make this as painless and seamless as possible. And so what we'll do is we'll have conversations. We will be putting the budget, the strategy, the marketing plan, some of the different things related to menu creation, different types of event offerings, different types of program offerings, working with the different partners so that it doesn't feel like there's this interruption from a public perspective or even from a council and staff perspective. It's really just going to be making sure that we can understand all of the existing day-to-day operations and then plug in. And if there are things, I'll use ticketing because that's a great example. If there's an event that's already scheduled for later in the year that already has tickets on sale going through a platform, no problem. We'll be completely flexible with that. We'll keep that running, and then as we have the opportunity to implement new or different, we'll do that. So it's not just like rip everything apart at once and put it back together. It really is understanding the event calendar, which we've already looked at. We've already started that work. At the risk of being presumptuous, we've already started some of the conversations around event opportunities and around the menu creation and those different types of things. So we're going to make sure this is really easy.
If I could add just one thing, I think one of the key parts is there's a change, but then we have customers, right? You have clients that have already made the bookings. So we're going to have a very strategic plan to reach out to them, to reconfirm, build confidence up that we can handle your event in September. We're going to take a look at what was committed to, maybe offer them some of the enhancements that maybe with no charge to it, just due to the fact that here's we're going to elevate a little bit. What's the process with that? But part of that whole idea is whether it's an event or a food event, we're going to make sure we're going to be connecting with all those bookings that are post start date to make sure they have the confidence that the change isn't going to impact their expectations or the event that we've already scheduled.
Or a wedding on the 3rd.
Please?
Or a wedding on the 3rd.
Or wedding on the 3rd, that's right, of July. There's a big wedding, we understand, July 3rd.
All right. Great. Ms. Soul.
Thank you for your presentation and the information, and appreciate it that you've explained it pretty clearly. I love the collaboration, the local, because had I not known that you guys just came together, I mean, it seemed pretty seamless already. So I appreciate what you all do. Question about displacing the current employees, and I know they're with another company, and I don't pretend to know all the ins and outs. Maybe there's some NCO clauses in effect. Would they be able to perhaps apply for your organization, because you said you're going to need a lot of part-time employees?
Yeah, we'll have stay interviews and opportunities with every team member, and that's something we talked about with the transition. So absolutely a possibility,
Okay.
assuming that from the other side and everything else that it checks out.
Yes, and I don't understand like all the ins and outs, but I just wondered about people that are part-time currently, if they were interested in being a part of the Civic Center under another management, that they just have to apply and, do that. And then, so question, there's a couple events that we are aware of, and I'm talking about one in particular, July 14th or that week. So they have an event. Can you walk me through that? So they have an event, so they've rented out the space. You all come in. How does that work? Like, just help me or the public understand the transition of taking that over and what that looks like.
Yeah, that's where we'll have to just have open communication with those existing events that are booked, especially in that first month of July, because again, we don't want to disrupt or make any of that an inconvenience. And so what we'll do is we work through, assuming a positive vote tonight, what we'll do is work through what are those transition events, and let's just have open communication. And to Jim's point, can we get in touch with them and assure them that there's not going to be any issues, any unique needs or specific needs that they have as far as venue setup or menu preparation or other things that are coming to the venue for that event. We'll make sure we understand so we can accommodate and be great hosts.
Okay, and I'm just asking because, an ordinary citizen doesn't understand,
Absolutely.
LAUP rents it out, and I understand it's like a ticketed event, $40 at the door, and then there's special seating, and then there's VIP. So you would have creative dining, selling stuff, and be in charge of all that stuff. They just worry about the tickets, and they would, because they rented out the place. And I'm just trying to glaze over all the details, but
That's exactly
this is
right.
my understanding. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Any other questions from council members? Yes, Ms. Rowan.
Okay, so the other point of clarification is that the contract with City of Holland is with Sports Facilities Management, Creative Dining being the subcontractor. This is your first venture together, correct? And so we propose this to be at least a 5-year marriage, I'm presuming, and I was looking through the contract. I don't see anything. I don't know if there's something specific that allows for a swap out at any point. Can you just
So what we'll have is
allay that concern?
Yeah, we'll have a subcontractor agreement that's coterminous with the agreement that's in front of you. So it will be lockstep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's it. Thank you.
Any other questions from council members? All right, great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. What is the pleasure of council in regard to item 12E 6.1?
Move to approve the facility management agreement as presented.
Moved by Vreeman. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Schulteis. Any discussion? I just have a couple of comments to make. We started this process as good business as good business process. We'd been in an agreement for a number of years with a brand new facility, and that contract called for a point to go back out and look and put out a request for proposals to see what other opportunities were out there. I really want to thank staff for taking the lead and doing an awful lot of work on this. Holland Civic Center Place Board, as well as Mr. Vreeman alluded to, you've been through probably 4 or 5 different presentations with this organization alone as part of this process. And this process has borne good fruit. As I think the sports facilities management and creative dining services could see from the questions and the enthusiasm of council, I think it's fair to say we were all very impressed. We're all looking forward to this. I want to thank you for paying attention to, focusing on, and committing to carrying through with the mission and the vision of the Holland Civic Center Place as the place where more people in the city of Holland feel welcome than anywhere else in the community. That is a diamond, a jewel, a hub for this community, and we're very excited about the future and working with you in the future. I don't want to be presumptive, but I think that it's time to ask Brenda to call the roll.
Raymond.
Yes.
Soul.
Yes.
Rowan.
Yes.
Shay.
Yes.
Schulteis.
Yes.
Bird.
Yes.
Freeman.
Yes.
And Mayor Box.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you very much. Time to get to work. Next item on the agenda, item 13, communications from the city manager. Mr. Van Beek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, and I do have some. All of you, and I'm sure you are all busy with other things, but when you get to your city email, you will see that I forwarded to your attention today the annual report from our Department of Public Services, which you all know, but as a reminder for everyone, includes both our fire services and our police services. And they always put a great amount of work into a lot of data, but also a lot of great information about all the things that happen in those departments. So you will see that, and for the viewing public, that will be released. It may have already been released, but probably tomorrow or Friday, it will be out there, and I would encourage everyone to see that. No study session next week. Hopefully that's okay with you all. And you will see we're entering into, after that, we get into April and budgets and May and tulip time and all those types of things. So pay attention. Busy schedule. Maybe you'll pay for having the week off next week because we'll keep you busy after that. Mr. Van Dyken down there is acting city manager next week as I'm gone, but I think as we all know, these things never seem too far away. So not only am I close by, but probably more importantly, I have complete and utter confidence in Matt. So you'll probably be better off without me.
Do I get your pay?
Mate, we'll talk about that, Matt. And then budget, just excited about the budget coming together. A ton of work on that. Huge thanks to our finance team. We will have a budget in brief for you by April 1. And then in the weeks after, you'll get the full city manager recommended budget in time, plenty in time before our April 10 and 11 budget sessions, where we go through 280 some pages or more in appropriate amount of detail. And in preparation for that, really look forward to the emphasis that we have put on and that you've encouraged, and Lynn McCammon has done a fantastic job with our long-term financial forecast. And we believe that we actually circle back and take a look at that before we really launch it into the budget. So March 27, we're looking for a study session on that, and we'll spend more time on that long-term financial forecast. And that is all I have tonight.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item 14, appointments and communications from the mayor. I do not have any appointments today, but I've got just one item of communication for council and for the public. We're not going to be meeting before the St. Patrick's Day Parade, which takes place on Saturday, March 16 at noon, starting at the Civic Center. The City of Holland does have a parade float. I know that it has been incredibly cold in previous years, but based on the weather we've had so far this spring, it might be shorts and a t-shirt weather rather than, like the -20 that it seemed like it was last year. So looking forward to seeing all of you there on Saturday. Again, starts at the Civic Center, goes in the opposite direction of every one of our other parades. It goes up the hill and ends down near the Corral, which provides for wonderful opportunities at the restaurants that are down in that area. And you may even see a surprise from the mayor if you show up on that day. And that is all I have today. Appointments and communications, motions from council members. Mr. Shea, I believe you had something.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I've been meeting with staff over the past few weeks, just kind of getting to know more of how things work. And I am kind of a wonk. I've met with everything from city planning, economic development. I've even tried to dip my toes into stuff with Dave Coster at BPW. These are incredibly smart people. And I just want to kind of express my gratitude for the staff at the city. It's clear to me that there is not just a bunch of smart people. These are a bunch of intelligent people. And by my definition, that is elasticity, flexibility. Nobody stopped thinking and evolving the year they graduated or the year that they started their careers. And I think that's a huge, huge thing. I also think that what I'm really appreciative of is that they haven't pigeonholed me as some, uneducated guy that's just a council person that wants to come and shake it up. I'm also full of dualities, and so I just really appreciate that, and I am really excited to go forward. And so I just want to encourage everybody to talk with staff. They're awesome. So thanks.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Soul.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to commemorate my colleagues. It is Women's History Month, and the citizens and residents, great women out there. Women's History Month is celebration of women's contributions to history, culture, and society as have been observed annually in the month of March in the United States since 1987. Women's History Month 2024 will take place, and it has passed Friday, March 1st, but it's throughout the month. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, and as well as talk about the theme. The theme for this month is a global celebration of economic and political social achievements of women took place the first time on March 8th, 1911. And the theme would designate a yearly theme for Women's History Month 2024, Women Who Advocate for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. This recognizes women who understand the need to eliminate biases and discrimination from individuals' lives and institutions. So I just want to, remind everyone, honor those great women around you that you love and that you work with and whatnot. And we owe it to them because we stand on the shoulders of the women that have gone before us. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any other motions, communications, announcements from council members? Seeing none, there's just one more motion I would entertain at this time.
Move to adjourn.
Moved by Vreeman. Is there support? Support by Soul. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.